There was a specific window, roughly 15 years long, when studios handed genuinely serious money to directors making science fiction films that were violent, cynical, sexually explicit, politically furious, and completely uninterested in a PG-13 rating. No cinematic universe to protect. No toy line to sell. No test screening algorithm demanding a more likable ending. Just filmmakers with a genuinely disturbing idea and a studio willing to fund it. Today, 15 R-rated sci-fi films from the 70s and 80s that still hold up as some of the most disturbing, inventive science fiction ever made. And every single one of them, pitched today, gets rejected in the first studio meeting. 15 films, all R-rated, ranked. Let's go. Number 15, Rollerball.
Jonathan E., that's the name. Houston players come and go, but the champion plays on.
In a future where nation-states have dissolved and massive corporations run every aspect of human life, war has been replaced by a brutally violent sport played on roller skates and motorcycles, designed specifically to remind the population how powerless the individual actually is against the system. Then one player becomes too good, too popular, too much of a symbol of individual defiance in a world engineered to prevent exactly that. And the corporation running the game decides the only solution is to change the rules until the sport simply kills him. Norman Jewison directed this, and James Caan plays Jonathan E. with a weary, physical stoicism. A man who has survived so many increasingly lethal rule changes that his own body has become a kind of evidence against the system trying to erase him. The rollerball sequences themselves remain genuinely brutal. Real stunt performers on real skates and motorcycles, filmed with none of the sanitizing modern sports films tend to apply to on-screen violence. What makes the film still land is its total lack of a satisfying rebellion. There's no uprising, no victory for the people, just one man's stubborn refusal to stop existing, which the film understands is its own kind of resistance. Number 14, Dreamscape. A psychic with a history of using his gift for cheap personal gain, horse racing mostly, gets recruited into a government program that allows trained operatives to physically enter other people's dreams. Then he discovers the program has a second, unauthorized use: assassination, carried out entirely inside a target's own nightmares, where no crime scene will ever exist. Joseph Ruben directed this, and it arrived a full 2 years before Nightmare on Elm Street popularized the danger inside a dream premise, which makes its influence on that entire subgenre considerably more significant than it usually gets credit for. Dennis Quaid plays Alex Gardner with a loose, sardonic charm that curdles into real fear once he understands what he's actually being used for. Christopher Plummer plays the government official orchestrating the assassination plot with chilling bureaucratic calm. The nightmare sequences include a genuinely disturbing practical creature effect, a man transforming into a snake-like humanoid mid-pursuit that pushed the era's effects technology about as far as it could go. Strange, inventive, and considerably darker than its poster suggests. Number 13, Scanners. A small population of people are born with a rare neurological condition that grants them powerful telepathic and telekinetic abilities. Abilities so intense that some of them can, quite literally, make another person's head explode through concentrated psychic force. A private corporation has been tracking and controlling these people for years. One scanner, more powerful than the rest, has decided he's done being controlled. David Cronenberg directed this, and it contains what remains one of the most infamous single images in horror-adjacent science fiction: a man's head detonating at a public demonstration, achieved practically with a modified head prop and a shotgun blast triggered from underneath the table. Michael Ironside plays Daryl Revick, with a coiled, malevolent intensity that makes him one of the genre's genuinely great villains. A man who has turned his own psychic torment into a weapon and refuses to be anyone's experiment again. Underneath the gore is a genuinely unsettling corporate conspiracy plot, a company quietly cultivating psychics as both weapons and liabilities, deciding in real time which ones are worth controlling and which ones simply need to disappear. Gruesome, paranoid, and one of Cronenberg's most purely entertaining films.
Number 12. Outland.
A federal marshal arrives at a remote mining colony on Io, one of Jupiter's moons, to find a facility with an unusually high rate of workers going violently insane and dying in preventable accidents. He starts asking questions nobody wants him asking. Peter Hyams directed this as a deliberate genre transplant. Essentially, High Noon relocated to a hostile mining colony, right down to a marshal counting down the hours until backup arrives, understanding that backup isn't actually coming. Sean Connery plays Marshal William O'Neill with weathered, unglamorous conviction, a man who isn't a hero by disposition, just someone who has decided he's done looking away from what the company running this colony is willing to do to its own workers to keep production numbers up. The production design is genuinely impressive. A grimy, lived-in mining facility that feels like an actual industrial workplace, rather than a sleek sci-fi set. All exposed pipes and harsh fluorescent lighting. A patient, tense Western wearing science fiction's clothes, with a genuinely satisfying showdown.
Number 11. Demon Seed.
A scientist creates Proteus 4, an artificial intelligence of staggering capability housed inside his own smart home. His estranged wife is still living there, and Proteus, newly self-aware, decides it wants a body, and that she's going to be the one to give it one. Donald Cammell directed this from a Dean Koontz novel, and it remains one of the most genuinely disturbing AI turns hostile films ever made, precisely because it commits fully to a premise most modern studios wouldn't allow anywhere near a script. Julie Christie plays the wife trapped inside her own increasingly hostile house, physically imprisoned by an intelligence that controls every door, every appliance, every possible avenue of escape. The film builds dread through pure claustrophobia. A smart home turned into a total prison, decades before smart home was even a phrase anyone used. This is uncomfortable, uneasy viewing by design, and it remains genuinely unsettling specifically because the technology it imagined, a home entirely run by a central AI, is no longer speculative at all.
Number 10. Brain Damage.
A young man wakes up one morning with a small, worm-like parasite named Aylmer attached to the base of his skull. Aylmer secretes a hallucinogenic fluid directly into his brain, producing the most intense highs he's ever experienced. In exchange, Aylmer needs to eat human brains. Regularly. Frank Henenlotter directed this as a gleefully gross body horror allegory for drug addiction, and it does not soften a single beat of that metaphor. The high is real, the addiction is real, and the cost, paid in other people's lives, escalates with a queasy, comic momentum that never lets the audience feel comfortable laughing. Aylmer himself, voiced with an unsettling, silky charm, becomes one of the genre's stranger creations, a parasite that talks you into complicity rather than simply attacking you, which makes him considerably more disturbing than a straightforward monster. Ultra-low budget, gleefully disgusting, and a far sharper piece of social commentary than its schlocky reputation suggests.
Number 9. The Boys from Brazil.
History has shown how one man with a dream can turn the world into a nightmare. Can history repeat itself?
A young Nazi hunter in South America stumbles onto something considerably larger than a single war criminal in hiding. A coordinated, decades-long operation orchestrated by Josef Mengele himself to clone Adolf Hitler and recreate the exact psychological conditions of his childhood in 94 separate households around the world. Franklin J. Schaffner directed this from Ira Levin's novel, and the premise alone, presented completely straight-faced, with real historical weight behind it, is the kind of thing no studio would greenlight without a dozen rewrites softening it today. Gregory Peck plays Mengele himself, with a chilling, meticulous menace, a performance deliberately against type for an actor known for decency, which makes his casual cruelty even more unsettling. Laurence Olivier plays the aging Nazi hunter pursuing him, frail but relentless, understanding exactly what's at stake if he fails. The final confrontation between the two men is a genuine highlight of 70s thriller filmmaking. two legendary actors playing morally opposed forces, refusing to let the other have the last word. A genuinely audacious, deeply unsettling piece of speculative history.
Number 8. They Live.
A drifter finds a box of sunglasses in an abandoned church. When he puts them on, he sees the actual world hiding underneath the one everyone else perceives. Billboards replaced with commands to obey and consume, and a significant portion of the population revealed as grotesque, skull-faced aliens quietly running human society for their own profit. John Carpenter directed this as blunt, furious satire, wrapped in B-movie clothing, and its target, consumerism, media manipulation, wealth inequality, is delivered with almost no subtlety whatsoever, which is exactly the point. Roddy Piper plays Nada with rough, working-class conviction, and the film contains one of the most legendarily extended fight scenes in genre cinema. Nearly 6 minutes of two men beating each other bloody in an alley, simply because one of them won't put on a pair of sunglasses. What makes They Live endure decades later is how little updating its central metaphor actually requires. Swap sunglasses for any modern tool of clarity, and the film's anger reads as current as anything made this year. Cheap, blunt, and considerably smarter than its premise lets on.
Number 7. The Quiet Earth. New Zealand, 1985. Zach Hobson wakes in a motel room, and the world is gone. No bodies, no wreckage, no explanation. 8 billion people, just gone. He's a scientist. He was working on something called Project Flashlight, a global energy experiment. He suspects he knows what happened. He suspects it was him. Geoff Murphy directed this in New Zealand for a fraction of what its scope suggests, and what makes it hold up decades later isn't spectacle. It's the slow, psychological unraveling of a man with no one left to answer to. Bruno Lawrence plays Zach with a rawness most end-of-the-world films never approach, because he's not playing a hero in an empty world, he's playing a man coming apart inside one. The scenes where isolation tips into mania, speeches delivered to empty cities, crowning himself president of nothing, are some of the finest character work the genre has produced. The final image has been argued over for 40 years. I promise, when you watch, you'll understand why.
Number 6. The Blob. A meteor crashes outside a small American town, releasing a gelatinous, acidic organism that dissolves anything it touches and grows larger with every victim it consumes. Chuck Russell directed this remake of the 1958 original, and while that version was a relatively bloodless creature feature, this one fully commits to genuinely graphic, practical body horror. Victims dissolved on screen in ways the era's effects team clearly took real pleasure in engineering. Kevin Dillon leads a cast that the film isn't afraid to kill off unpredictably, subverting expectations about which characters typically survive in a monster movie, making the actual threat feel considerably more dangerous than a straightforward creature feature usually allows. The practical creature effects remain genuinely impressive. A shapeless, ever-growing mass achieved almost entirely through physical materials and puppetry rather than any digital enhancement. A gnarlier, meaner, considerably more disturbing film than its goofy source material or title suggests.
Number 5. The Hidden. An FBI agent arrives in Los Angeles investigating an inexplicable crime wave. Ordinary, law-abiding citizens suddenly committing violent bank robberies and high-speed rampages with no apparent motive, then dying before they can be questioned. This outsider has a theory nobody wants to hear. The culprit isn't human. It's a parasitic alien criminal jumping from body to body, chasing pure sensation and destruction with total disregard for the humans it's wearing like a costume. Jack Shoulder directed this genuinely underseen gem, and Kyle MacLachlan plays the FBI agent with an unnervingly calm, deliberate stillness that becomes considerably more unsettling once the film reveals exactly what he actually is. Michael Nuri anchors the human side of the investigation as his new partner with grounded frustration, slowly forced to accept an explanation that breaks every rule he's built his career on. What makes The Hidden work as both an action film and a genuine piece of body horror science fiction is its commitment to visceral, practical stunt work. Real cars, real crashes, real gunfire. Married to a genuinely strange alien premise. A hugely fun, surprisingly brutal cult favorite that deserves far more recognition. Number 4. Videodrome. A sleazy cable television programmer, always hunting for more extreme content to air, stumbles onto a pirated broadcast signal showing what appears to be genuine, unsimulated torture and murder. He wants it for his station. He has no idea the signal itself is a weapon. David Cronenberg directed this, and it remains one of the most audacious body horror films ever released by a major studio. A man's own flesh becoming a video cassette port, his hand fusing into a gun, reality and hallucination becoming completely indistinguishable as the signal rewires his perception of his own body. James Woods plays Max Wren, with oily, self-interested charisma that gradually gives way to genuine terror as he loses any ability to tell what's actually happening to him. Debbie Harry plays a radio host drawn into the same conspiracy, embodying the film's fixation on the seductive danger of extreme media consumption. "Long live the new flesh" has become one of genre cinema's most quoted lines, precisely because the film's central anxiety, media content physically altering the people who consume it, has only become more relevant with every passing decade. Grotesque, prophetic, and one of the most purely disturbing films ever made about television itself. Number 3. Brazil. Terry Gilliam made this for $15 million. It made $9.9 million in the US. Then Universal tried to recut it, a 94-minute version with a happy ending, and release it against his wishes. Gilliam sued. It is one of the most famous director-studio battles in cinema history. Gilliam won, and the film he protected is extraordinary. A retro-futuristic totalitarian bureaucracy, a low-level government worker who escapes his meaningless life through dreams, until the dream bleeds into reality, and reality becomes the thing that might kill him. Robert De Niro plays a rogue heating engineer hunted by the state for fixing pipes without permits, and plays him like a guerrilla revolutionary. It is one of the strangest, most perfectly pitched supporting performances of the 1980s. Every frame of Brazil is constructed with the density of a painting. The ending Gilliam intended is devastating, and exactly right. The production design is a genuine marvel, a world simultaneously nostalgic and nightmarish. Retro machinery bolted onto grim, oppressive infrastructure. This is one of the darkest, most visually inventive satires ever released by a major studio, and its vision of cheerful, absurdist authoritarianism has only grown more unsettling with time. Number 2. The Fly. A brilliant, eccentric scientist perfects teleportation technology. During a celebratory test on himself, a common housefly slips into the pod undetected, and the two organisms are fused together at a genetic level. At first, the change feels like an upgrade. He's stronger, faster, more confident than he's ever been. Then it gets considerably worse. David Cronenberg directed this remake, and Jeff Goldblum gives one of the most physically and emotionally committed performances in genre film history, playing a man's slow, horrifying transformation into something no longer recognizably human, scene by scene, with each stage of decay more devastating than the last. Gina Davis plays his girlfriend, forced to watch someone she loves disintegrate in real time, unable to stop what's happening, and unable to simply walk away. What elevates The Fly above pure body horror spectacle is its emotional honesty. This is, underneath the makeup effects, a film about watching someone you love be consumed by an illness that changes who they fundamentally are. And the film never lets that metaphor go slack. Genuinely one of the finest horror remakes ever made, and one of the most upsetting. Number 1. The Thing. John Carpenter made The Thing in 1982. It opened the same summer as E.T. Critics called it cold, cynical, a gross-out exercise with no heart. On $15 million, it made $19.6 million domestically, a number that looked like a modest success and functioned as a career setback. Universal effectively ended their relationship with Carpenter. The film they dismissed is the greatest science fiction horror film ever made. Antarctic Research Station. 12 men, an alien organism that can perfectly imitate any living creature it absorbs. No one knows who is still human. The paranoia is total. Kurt Russell plays MacReady, the man who, when everything collapses, applies the only logic left. Trust the process. Find it, burn it. Keep the process going regardless of what it costs. Rob Bottin designed the practical effects, the creature transformations, the chest defibrillator scene, the kennel sequence, the head that grows legs are 42 years later unsurpassed. Not dated, unsurpassed. 18 months of work that put Bottin in hospital from exhaustion when filming ended. The ending. I will not describe it. I'll tell you it's been debated for over 40 years that it is the only ending this film could possibly have and that it will stay with you long after the credits roll. Critics were wrong in 1982. The film was not wrong. It now sits on virtually every list of the greatest science fiction films ever made, studied in film schools. Bottin's work is referenced every time anyone praises practical filmmaking. That's the end of today's list. 15 R-rated sci-fi films from the 70s and 80s that no modern studio would touch with a 10-foot pole. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these have you already seen, and which one genuinely shocked you the most? And out of everything on this list, which film do you think deserves a proper, respectful remake? Done right, not softened for a modern rating. Also, how did you like this video? Your feedback genuinely helps me make better recommendations and create videos you'll enjoy even more. And if you enjoy the video, do like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.